Hello! In today's video, I am going to be going over our matchmaking results for our season, and I'm also going to be going over my thoughts about what's going to be happening this season potentially, what my expectations are, and yeah, just like in the best case scenario, what I think will happen, or for everyone that's involved to have fun. So there's 4 camps, the 2 summoner camps, which is our team, and then the 2 hunter camps, which is the enemy team. Our zone is ROG and ASC, and then the enemies that we will be fighting in Zone 2 are TG and K211. Our allies on the opposite side of the map are CMAR and AC, and the final enemy position, which we'll be fighting in Zone 3, is EX and ERA. So this is an interesting 4v4 scenario where there aren't very many old kingdoms in here. There's Kingdom 11, but Kingdom 11 is a little bit smaller and also features a lot of beta players as well. So they're, I think still it's safe to say, used to a different playstyle maybe, or they have that like ingrained initial style since EX has been in that kingdom, I think, since the beginning. And then we have probably like 113, which is the only other kingdom that I consider here really to be G2. And then we have 171, 186, 211, 220, and 244, which, at least relative to us, and 110 are all pretty young kingdoms. And before we go ahead and take a look at the spreadsheet, I would like to reiterate that this map gives everyone the best possible chance of having a good season. And I would just again like to, I guess, congratulate the developers on creating a map that actually functions like this, where you have a guaranteed access to Dragon Zone, and you also have access to all these other zones. I think that something that Chiscool has said, which is very accurate, is that you are missing out in Call of Dragons normally on the fun that is the final Dragon Zone fight. So hopefully by forcing people to participate in this Dragon Zone fight by making it impossible for them to be blocked from it, hopefully that will allow everyone to experience this. And then in future KVKs, when this isn't the case where people have guaranteed access to Dragon Zones, Diplo will try to work in a way that more people do. That way the final fight for like everything is actually in the Dragon Zone instead of in like almost every KVK I've had before this where it's decided before you even get there. I think the only exclusion to this was SOT1. I think that's literally the only season I've had since I started playing this game where the KVK wasn't decided before we made it to Dragon Zone. Shout out to, I think it was Savage in that KVK. I don't know, SOT1 was a long time ago. That was before I was even making content. But yeah, let's go ahead now and go into the spreadsheet. Just wanted to point out how good this map design is, and it has a lot of potential. Could probably be even improved upon a little bit. But yeah, I'm just rambling at this point, so let me go ahead and swap over into the spreadsheet. So here is the spreadsheet. Before we go ahead and dive into it, I would like to point out that this data is referencing a complete list of accounts for all of the different kingdoms that are presented here. I just wanted to exclude that data from this spreadsheet, that way it wasn't too overwhelming for people. And I would also like to thank Drago and I believe Jack Frost for helping with the data collection here, and also Crises as well. But now let's go ahead and get into it. So we have our 2 groups here, the summoners and the hunters, which are displayed. The total power for the summoners is 60, and for the hunters is 66.7. It's important to note that accounts are only counted if they are above 15 million power. So it's not like lists that I made in the past where like literally everyone in the top alliances was counted. So this is a lot more accurate than it used to be. There's also the total kills and deaths here, which you can tell these guys in the hunters group, these younger kingdoms don't mess around when it comes to deads. So yeah, that's pretty crazy. And if we go ahead now and take a look at like the total T4 players, you can see that they have, way more T4s than us. What's that? 466 more T4 players than us. But we have 119 more T5s, if I did that math right. So yeah, there is a advantage there for sure. Yeah, the 119 through. Oh, the numbers are just right here. Anyways, yeah, pretty big differences here on both stats. So, given this number, I think it's probably safe to say that we have an advantage. But let's go ahead and take a look at these numbers here, because this is the net win-loss on the Tier 5 breakdown, and this is where it actually gets more impactful. So we have the same number of over 175s, we have 2 more 150s to 175s, and then here's where it starts to get painful. We have 16 more 125s to 150s, 30 more 100s to 125s, 53 more 80s to 100, and 18 more 61 to 800 or 61 to 80s. They do have 168 more 45s to 65s and 178 more 15s to 45s. I assume that this is mostly going to be people that are like in the 35 to 40 million power range or something, and are just like kind of, you know, semi-active players that are maybe not in very high spend alliances and are just kind of chilling. So it's probably fair to not count any of the accounts here that are in this like 15 to 45 mil range, because let's be honest, they're kind of gonna get smoked. But if we just go ahead and look at the 45 to 65, you can see they have a significant advantage here, but that doesn't really add up for like this overwhelming T5 advantage that we end up having. So just by looking at this sheet, I think it's possible to say that we have the easier end of this situation, even though they have like so many more accounts than us and a slight power advantage. I think that just because we have more T5s, as is shown in row 21 here, that yeah, it's pretty fair to say that we will have an advantage going into this KVK. I think that we're still going to have some pretty good fights, and in order to actually show that, I'm going to go ahead now and edit this spreadsheet and show you what it would look like for our different fights. And let me just show you what I mean real quick by hopping back in game. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a spreadsheet, or like a screenshot of the spreadsheet for all of these like individual zones here. So like 110 versus 211, and then 211 versus 220, 220 versus 11, and 11 versus 110. That way we have like 4 individual sheets for the different matchups in these zones. Some of them are obviously going to be unfair, especially like I think 11 and 186 are going to be super outnumbered in this zone here, but it's kind of inevitable since the matchmaking wasn't perfect. And like even in the perfect scenario, there's like always going to be one zone that's stronger than the others, and on one of the two sides, that means that starting zone will have an easy zone to take. That's just the nature of this map design, but I think the map design is still pretty good. Anyways, let me go ahead and make those sheets, and then I will hop back into the spreadsheet. Alright, so I went ahead and added 4 more spreadsheets here, or little charts. Didn't take very long, just a little bit of formulas and copying data over. So this zone 2, we can see the power is pretty close, but we end up with 100 more T5s. They have 100 more, 140 more T4s, so we're probably gonna win that one. It could be a good fight, maybe if one of our allies doesn't take it too seriously, but I don't know, a lot of things need to happen, I think, in order for us to actually have some good results here. You can see Gracie's opened up the spreadsheet again. What a guy. Anyways, here we go into the next zone 2. This is CMAR and EX. So CMAR is at a pretty big disadvantage here in terms of power with AC. That's just because AC is a really small kingdom, even though they have some good fighters. If we compare the win-losses, though, you can see that, yeah, our guys have 19 more T5s, but the enemies have 200 more T4s. And this is a common theme. We discussed this up here, how they just have so many more T4s than us. Of course, it's important to notice, like, 80 of these T4s are 15 millicounts, so you can probably ignore all those. So in reality, they have like 115 more T4s instead of 203, but our guys still have 19 more T5s. This one will probably be a fun zone 2 to watch, but I think I would expect EX to actually win this zone. And then if we go down into zone 3, you can see this is one that we should be able to win pretty comfortably, I think. I think the zone 2 will be harder for us than zone 3. You can see the net win loss here on this row. We have 100 more T5, and they have like 85 more, maybe 100 more T4s. Again, you kind of want to discount this 15 mil plus column. And then for the final zone 3, we have CMAR and AC versus TG and K211. We go to the win-loss tab again. This one ends up being a little bit closer to even. Our guys have 18 more T5s, and they're fighting against probably like 100 more T4s. I guess it's not actually that close to even. There's like a 6 billion power difference. But I think that overall, the way these zones turned out is actually pretty interesting, and let me go ahead and explain why. So the way that you want this KVK format to work realistically is that the strongest kingdom on each side, or the strongest realm on each side, gets to choose which zone they want to go into and dominate before they go into Dragon Zone, and then you can occupy those behemoths there. And I think that's generally the case. We're gonna have to wait and see how this actually plays out, but it looks like with the power differences, T4 T5 differences for these first zone 2s and zone 3s, it's pretty interesting. Once we get into the final zone here, you take a look at this column or this row, you can see that we have 119 more T5s to their like 200 T4s. So by the time we get into final zone, as long as our activity is good, we should be able to win the season. But I think before that, we should have some pretty good fighting. And even in Dragon Zone, if our enemies decide that, hey, we're going to show up, we're going to give a fight, which I think is really likely, by the way. If you just look at their dead count, you look at their kill count. Anyways, if they decide to actually show up, I think this should be a lot of fun. It's definitely going to be better than SoS1 for us. SoS1, BTR, and EXP chose like the super unfair easy Diplo in that KVK because they were butthurt over SOP2. And then in SoS2, BTR migrated out, and there really was no way for us to save that KVK with any sort of Diplo. So yeah, SoS3 for us is going to be the best KVK since the SOS system was introduced, at least that ROG has had, or TRK has had, I guess, since we're technically TRK, but I guess we're just calling ourselves ROG for the sake of this sheet. But anyways, I think that these numbers here are pretty promising, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this actually, materializes in reality, basically. Because like we can look at spreadsheets all we want, but you never know like how many people are actually going to be active. Like, okay, we have 233 T5s. Are all of them going to fight? Probably not. Are all of them going to be crazy? Probably not. Are we maybe going to have like 180 T5s or 150 T5s that are actually doing a lot of fighting? I don't know, right? Like, you can't actually just look at the numbers and say like, oh, okay, well, GG, they win. Yeah, I mean, I hope, obviously, that every single member of our kingdom participates, but, that just typically isn't the case in, like, every kingdom. So, yeah, it's going to come down to activity. I think that the numbers here are close enough that it could go either way. I think that based on other spreadsheets, people were a little bit demoralized, but this spreadsheet is 100% accurate, whereas other spreadsheets before this potentially weren't. And yeah, there will be a link to this spreadsheet down in the description below if you would like to take a look at it. I'm not going to provide the raw data that this sheet is referencing, but just know that the data that this sheet is referencing was all pulled accurately, and these numbers here are a perfect reflection of that data at the time that it was pulled, which was within the last 24 hours. So This will be probably as accurate as you can get. And again, a huge thank you to Drago for actually putting in the work and doing this. And speaking of, I will have a video that I do on other KVK matchmakings in the next few days or something like that. But I just wanted to make this one video to focus on our own KVK matchmaking, since obviously I'm in it, so it's the most important to me. Now let's go ahead and hop back in game and wrap up this video. So yeah, I am really pumped for this KVK. I think it's going to be good. I think that some people think it's going to be worse than it'll likely actually be. I think some people have just had, really bad experiences in the past, so I don't think they're understanding like the actual setup of this KVK, because if this KVK was set up like previous KVKs, our kingdom could like run around the map and like box other kingdoms into their starting zone. But because everyone has guaranteed access to the dragon zone, we can't do that. So everyone, or I guess we're in home kingdom right now. But if we go ahead and actually take a look at the map, you can see that everyone's going to have access to Dragon Zone. And I'm pretty sure this is going to make for like a really exciting end to the season, assuming that all of the members in this KVK, like all the different kingdoms, keep up their activity and their motivation. And I'm pretty sure that our fight in Neoned against 211 and what was it, like 244 or something, whatever, like TW or I'm sorry, I'm going to remember their name eventually. I think that fight is going to be really good, assuming that we can work out some sort of like semi-diplo or something, or maybe like some of us just take a break while other people enjoy the fight. But our fight in Sibaza against EX it's probably going to be a slaughter. The fight in the final zone, though, is going to be a completely different story. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this next KVK, in spite of the way that some people have been talking about it. For example, just in like the prep chat here and stuff like that. Yeah, if you're looking forward to content from this KVK as well, make sure to subscribe to the channel, as I will be obviously making content on it, videos, streams, and whatnot. There will most likely be more content, or there will guaranteed be more content on the KVK this time around than there was last time. The reason why I didn't do very many videos in the last KVK is because there really wasn't much to like watch. Our fight in Zone 2 lasted like 5 hours maybe, and then our fight in Zone 3 was fun, but I pretty much just streamed that whole thing, and then I had like a couple of little fights that I recorded for videos. So hopefully I can show more content this season. If there is specific aspects of the content that you want me to actually show, feel free to let me know in the comments below, and I can go ahead and do that. Yeah, there's a bunch of things that I have planned for this season. Hopefully they all work out, or at least a lot of them work out. And yeah, hope you're excited too. It's a bit rambly, but kind of is what it is and how my channel goes. Anyways, thanks for watching, and have a great rest of your day.